Monday. Time to propose a mythical bill, a single-point solution that if I was a member of Congress, I might put forward. One bill, one issue, one page, because it's really not that hard. An elementary school in San Francisco, they're spending $250,000 federal dollars on an organization called Woke Kindergarten. Their goal is pro-black and queer trans liberation. For 5 and 6 year olds. So what are we just going to ignore the fact that less than 4% of their students are actually proficient in math and less than 12% are hitting their English requirements? I mean, here's my proposal, folks. If your school is receiving a dime of federal funding and fails to meet the national testing standards, then you should be fired. The principal should be fired and stripped of all their credentials forever. They're not just getting rehired somewhere else. They need to make these mistakes count. All these schools would be under a yearly evaluation. If I'm entrusting you with the education of my children and you're not meeting the bare minimum standards, then there should be severe consequences. Look, the education of our children should not be used as a social experiment, which brings me today to our threat assessment. Why are we prioritizing woke education over real education in schools, let alone kindergartners? Look, I don't care what category of gender you feel you belong to. I don't care about your race or who you live with or your sole job is to educate my children. Look, you're there to teach them math, English, science, and history. That's all. It would be great if you could teach them to, I don't know, do their laundry or maybe their taxes, but not how many genders there are, or what pronouns they can use, or who you're categorizing as oppressed as this week or that week, whatever. Frankly, I don't care about your feelings. All of my kids don't need to know that you even exist outside of the classroom. And you know what? It's time more parents spoke out at school board meetings. Hell, that's what I do. We have to stand up for the future of our children because the worst place it can be is in the hands of these crazy woke liberals. Joining me now, former press secretary at the U.S. Department of Education, Angela Morbido, and Erika Sanzi, director of outreach at Parents Defending Education. Angela, look, why are we putting parents on the back burner?
Well, quite simply, Carl, that's because there are woke educators who have decided they ought to be taking the place of parents. And they couldn't be more wrong. But that's how you get programs like Woke Kindergarten, where $250,000 federal dollars are being spent to treat kids as little comrades. I didn't make up that word. That's actually in the Woke Kindergarten program. They're asking them things like, what would happen if we challenged the legitimacy of the Supreme Court? Or what would happen if America cut ties with Israel? Well, what 5-year-old knows what the Supreme Court is or can even find Israel on a map? And that's the whole point, is to indoctrinate these kids before their critical thinking skills kick in.
Right. Well, Erika, that's the problem. This movement, although, look, you couldn't survive in a private sector of this. It's gone completely bankrupt, surviving in the education sector. This week, Black Lives Matter. They're holding this week of action, or whatever that is, in schools, highlighting 13 guiding principles and 4 demands of Black Lives Matter at school. I mean, look, why is this even in our educational system?
Well, it's in the educational system because we've had an ideological takeover that had begun prior to 2020, but it really did accelerate at that time. I was working in schools as recently as 2015. I saw nothing like this. But really what we're talking about here is burdening young children with topics that are totally developmentally inappropriate to begin with. And then making them so hyper ideological. I mean, I'm looking at the woke kindergarten stuff for Thanksgiving, and it literally says that there's no thanks to be given. They say we can't give thanks because of all of the terrible things that the country has done and is currently doing. And I would also say it's not a coincidence that this school's academic outcomes are so bad. These are the children who most need targeted intervention in reading and math. And instead of getting that, they are literally having words taught to them like strike and ceasefire and protest and massacre. And they are being told that the police are bad, America shouldn't exist, Israel shouldn't exist, and that they can identify as a tree if they want to.
Yeah, which is all so stupid. You know, Democrats, Angela, in New Jersey, they're introducing the Senate bill for the Freedom to Read Act. And it always sounds nice, but it protects teachers and librarians who choose to show obscene material to kids, promising to provide, quote, an award of any reasonable attorney's fees and cost of suit in. I mean, look, who are we protecting here? I mean, they already get taxpayer dollars for the salary. Why should they be covered if they teach my kids something weird and creepy?
This bill is the product of an education system that thinks woke educators should take the place of parents. Of course, there should be no place in schools for anything that's meant to indoctrinate a child or anything that's exposing them to age-inappropriate, explicit material. What about, instead of the Freedom to Read Act, what about the Freedom to Learn to Read Act? What if we just got back to those educational basics and started teaching kids what they need and how to think, not what to think?
Erika, last 15 seconds to you.
I just want to say that woke kindergarten is something that parent advocates have been talking about for a few years now, and I am actually quite gratified to see it getting the attention that it needs so that people will better understand that programs like this, that's not only in California, we've documented it in Virginia, in Vermont, in Rhode Island, and in California. So, you know, just stay vigilant, everybody.
Yeah, is what it is. Angela Morbido, Erika Sanzi, we appreciate you stopping by.